Dear students, thank you for tuning in and welcome to this video. We are continuing our discussion about corrosion as part of the biomaterials class. We're going to talk about the galvanic series in this video, and we will talk about the different types of corrosion cells that can happen, and we will explain them. Following videos, we will go into more details about each of those types. Now, for the galvanic series, all metals exhibit tendency to oxide. They have to go to their natural form. They can be hydroxide, they can be carbonate. So they have this tendency to oxide if we want to focus on just oxidation. Some more easily than others. And there's a tabulation of the relative strength of this tendency to oxide, which is to react with oxygen and to become more of the natural form, the ores or the natural occurring form. This tabulation is called the galvanic series, and you can see it in this schematic here. This galvanic series ranks the reactivity of metals and alloys in seawater, which is the oxidation of these elements in seawater. The easiest way to look into this is to look at the tendency to lose electrons or to release electrons in an anodic process. If you look at the table or the tabulation or the list of these elements, you can see it starts with the platinum at the top and magnesium at the bottom. So the more we go down toward magnesium, the more anodic, which means that these elements toward the bottom of the list, they tend to lose their electrons. They tend to release electrons, which means that they can complete the part of the in the corrosion process where the anodic reaction will take place. So the lower you go in this list, the more tendency for these metals to lose their electrons, so that we call them active. The upper you go into the list toward platinum, gold, and graphite, those elements, they don't tend to lose their electrons, so they're more cathodic, and we call them inert, which means that they don't corrode. So magnesium, zinc, and cadmium are the most three elements that tend to corrode, while graphite, gold, and platinum are the ones that they do not have this tendency to corrosion. And in biomedical applications, we tend to use metals toward the top of this list. So titanium, gold, platinum are some of the metals that we are using more and more inside the human body because of their tendency to resist corrosion. This is very important. We're going to use it in multiple locations to understand how corrosion is taking place. Forms of corrosion, and we're going to call them corrosion cells. This is a list of all the possible types of corrosion, and we can see there's a lot of these possibilities. We are going to focus on something called composition corrosion and concentration cell corrosion and the stress corrosion cracking. So composition, concentration, and stress. We're going to focus on these three types or forms of corrosion, and we're going to explain what's happening in these types of corrosions. And then at the end, we're going to talk about corrosion fatigue. That's how corrosion is going to create fatigue and failure, catastrophic failures in metals. So what we're going to focus on is composition, concentration, and stress. Three typical conditions that establish corrosion cells. These three types are if we have differences in composition, and when we say differences in composition, I want you to remember the galvanic series, because if you have two elements that one of them is at the top of the list and one of them at the bottom of the list, one will be anodic and the other will be cathodic, and then we have our environment that is accelerating or promoting corrosion. The other one is stress gradient and boundaries. And if you remember from our discussion about grain boundaries in metals, those boundaries can be, for the crystals, those boundaries can be places where corrosion will going to have, anodic and cathodic places or areas, and then we have our corrosion cell. And then the concentration gradient is the third type, and the concentration gradient, we can say, well, okay, there are different types of different forms of how this cell will happen, but one of the easiest examples is that, well, I have a place where I have high concentration of oxygen and a place where I have a lower concentration of oxygen. The high and low will create the cathode and anode, and then I have my corrosion cell that can be established, and then we have corrosion. We're going to go into more details in each one of these three conditions to explain what is the composition corrosion cell, what is the stress gradient corrosion cell, and what's the concentration gradient corrosion cell. Thank you for watching. Until next video, we're going to explain these three conditions. Bye.